Jayatu Jayatu Devo Devaki Nandanoyam. Jayatu Jayatu Krishno Vrishnivansa Pradeepaha. Jayatu Jayatu Megashamala Komalangaha. Jayatu Jayatu Prithvi Bharanaso Mukundaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Maddanam. Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Mande Jagadgurum. Nandagopa Sutam Devam Putana Shakatashura Vatsasura Trinavarta Bakasura Aghasura Keshi Mardhanam Yashoda Paramanandam Govindam Mande Jagadgurum. Giriraja Varadam Devam Darparaja Mardhanam Vrajaraja Paramanandam Rasarajam Mande Jagadgurum. Prita Partha Varadam Mande Daitya Darpa Vinasanam Rukmini Paramanandam Sundaram Vande Jagadgurum. Bhuvana Sundaram Vande Jagadgurum. The Bhuvana Sundara, the very embodiment of beauty, the goal of the seekers of truth. Krishna descended in order to perform Atimanusha Cheshtitas. Puresha celebrates all the avatars of Bhagavan. Atimanusha Sheela Vritta Veshaihi Ativrittamara Vikrama Pratapaihi Athilangita Sarvaloka Samyam Varaye Vaishnava Vaibhava Avataram. Celebrating all the glorious avatars of Bhagavan, Puresha relishes how Bhagavan engages in Atimanusha Cheshtitas, and he also demonstrates Atimanusha Sheela, Atimanusha Vritta. Now in Krishna Avatara, if we deeply examine the Avatara that we have relished so far, Atimanusha Vritta is very clear. He has been engaging in performing extraordinary, spectacular feats. Atimanusha Sheela Vritta Veshaihi. Atimanusha Vesha. Vritta are the actions, suprahuman actions. Krishna has been only performing that from day one. There is no doubt about that. Atimanusha Vesha is Divya Manohara Rupa. Kasturi Tilakam Lalata Patale Vakshastele Kaustubam Nasagre Naumoktikam Karatale Venuk Kare Kankanam Sarvange Harichandanam Sulalitam Kantecha Muktavalim Gopastri Pariveshtito Vijayate Gopala Chudamani. His Gopala Vesha, we have no words to describe. His Gopala Vesha is Ati Manohara. He is so very enchanting that it is Atimanusha Vesha. So there is no doubt in that as well. Ativrittamara Vikrama Pratapaihi, establishing his supremacy over everybody else, including all the Devas. Even that, we have seen how Krishna, he busts the ego of Indra. He dispels the delusion of Brahma. And he demonstrates supernatural powers, his Paratva, and therefore, so far we have also relished his Ativritta Amara Vikrama Pratapa. There is something still missing. Atimanusha Sheela. Atimanusha Sheela Vritta Veshaihi. Krishna and Sheela. Sheela means character, conduct, behavior. The less said is better, I guess. Krishna, right from the time he entered Vraja, his Leelas are nothing but Atimanusha Leela. Of course, there is always a divine, deep purpose behind everything that he does. But then, Bhagavan has been let loose to engage in his Leela and be playful, because Sri Mahalakshmi is still waiting. So until marriage, everything is fine. So therefore, whatever he had to do in Vraja, he had to do, and the time has to come soon when he has to also demonstrate Atimanusha Sheela. Good conduct, good behavior. That will only start happening after Rukmini Krishna Vivaha. Until then, Krishna has been given the license to do whatever he wants. After that, the license is revoked. Shri is very particular. So therefore, when we look at Krishna's avatara, we can actually look at the Krishna avatara into three parts. The first part, the early life of Krishna on Bhuloka, which again can be divided into the phase of Balya Lila, his phase of Pauganda Lila, his phase of Kaishora Lila. Between ages 0 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 10. All happens on the sacred land of Vrajabhumi. And we have relished all these Leelas. Here, it is Atimanusha Cheshtita, Atimanusha Vritta. He does spectacular feats and keeps us captivated through every Leela of his. Now this is the early phase. Essentially, it's all around Vraja. Krishna going around Gokula, Vrindavana and performing all these Cheshtitas. This is the first part of Krishna Avatara. As we have seen, Vyasa goes into detail on this part of Krishna Avatara, and therefore in Bhagavatam Dashamaskandam, we have seen a good part of Dashamaskanda reserved to relish Krishna's Balya Leela, Pauganda Leela and Kaishora Leela. Then the second phase, which is about to begin, Krishna after moving to Mathura, and then Mathura again is not that blessed. It is just a matter of time before Krishna has to move again out of Mathura. And then he moves from Mathura to Dwaraka. It is during this phase we can possibly call his family life, Grihastha-shrama, Krishna's Grihastha-shrama, his family life. It is when Shri walks in and possibly takes charge. And it is here we see Krishna engaged in correcting the ills of society. The Dharma Samstapana as per Grihastha-shrama Dharma gets started in this phase. Krishna starts looking at the ills of society then in Dwapara Yuga and sets right many adharmic things that have been happening. So this in many ways is Krishna bringing harmony to the society. Now until he was in Vraja, Krishna was personally engaged in everything that had to be done. But now we suddenly see Krishna changing gears. He engages personally, but he also empowers many others in order to establish Dharma. So this is the phase, this is the glorious phase where Rukmini Krishna Vivaha happens. The third part of Krishna Avatara, this can be called as his public life, where Krishna devotes himself for the benefit of everybody else. This is where he starts to look at arresting the escalating adharma. This is where he becomes the guide, the friend, the philosopher of the Pandavas. And this is where he orchestrates the war of Mahabharata. That is the third phase of Krishna Avatara before he eventually decides to ascend, go back to Vaikuntha. So if we see these three phases of Krishna avatars, in general, the focus of all the acharyas has always been on the first two phases. This is where we get to relish Krishna's Balya Cheshtitas, and we also get to see Krishna flourishing and growing into what he is eventually going to do as the later part of his avatara. Vyasa focuses on the first part of the avatara and the third part of the avatara. The second part of the avatara gets a very brief narration. Now, in Bhagavatam, even the third part of the avatara is only spoken very briefly. So where do we find the account, a detailed account of the third part of Krishna avatara? We have to go to Mahabharata. And as we see in Mahabharata, Vyasa decides to spend less time on the first two parts of Krishna avatara. And therefore in Mahabharata, if we see, Krishna gets introduced only at the time of Draupadi Swayamvara, by which time all the Atimanusha Cheshtitas, Atimanusha Vritta, everything has already happened. And Krishna becomes a responsible person who has to establish Dharma in the society, fix the problems of the society, look at arresting the Adharma done by the various Kshatriyas, the various kingdoms. And therefore, we see in the Mahabharata, Krishna as an orchestrator of the grand war that arrests the growth of Adharma. We are relishing Dasamaskanda of Srimad Bhagavatam, where we have concluded our journey through the very first part of Krishna's avatara. Balya Lila, Pauganda Lila, Kaishora Lila. And we have also seen Krishna moving back to Mathura, and where he also fulfills the prophecy where Kamsa also gets killed. Now order is established in Mathura. The Mathura Vasis are thrilled. Celebrations start. Every day is a celebration. Now that Krishna is back in Mathura, it's all celebrations. Ugrasena is installed on the throne of Mathura. Once again, Dharma reigns. Everybody is happy. Everybody is happy in Mathura, but not in other parts of Bharat Desha, not in other kingdoms. And this is where Krishna decides to send Akrura to Hastinapura. Krishna gets to know what is going on in Hastinapura. Now we need to see the parallel. As Krishna was growing up here in Vraja, the Pandavas and the Kauravas were also growing up in Hastinapura. And we know the atrocities that were committed on the Pandavas post death of Pandu by Dhritarashtra and his sons. Krishna therefore is concerned for the welfare of his beloved Kunti, and is concerned for his beloved Pandavas, and therefore he sends Akrura. Earlier he sent Uddhava to Gokula, to Vrindavana, in order to inquire about the welfare of the Gopikas, his beloved Gopikas. Now he sends the Mahatma Akrura to go and find out what is going on and also advise Dhritarashtra. Akrura therefore takes this mission and visits Hastinapura, and he discovers the happenings. He finds out how Dhritarashtra has been inflicting pain on the Pandavas, and how Duryodhana, led by Shakuni, has been scheming to eliminate the Pandavas. He comes to know about various atrocities that have been committed against the Pandavas. Akrura is shaken. He exchanges notes with Vidura. Vidura also briefs him on what has been going on. And then Akrura goes and meets the great Bhakta Kunti Devi. And Kunti Devi has been waiting for this very moment. Kunti Devi sees Akrura as Krishna himself visiting Hastinapura. Kunti Devi has been waiting to send a message to Krishna. Kunti Devi then has a glorious conversation with Akrura. We all are aware of the glorious, scintillating Kunti Stuti. Kunti Stuti in Bhagavatam happens right at the beginning. But there is a prelude to the Kunti Stuti which happens later in the Bhagavatam. Because Bhagavatam, as it is narrated, it starts towards the end and then it goes on. So therefore, when we relished Kunti Stuti, we also relished Kunti's supreme bhakti. And when we come back to where we are now, we also get to see how she managed to be such a supreme bhakta. Now, when she said, Namasye Purusham Tvadyam Ishwaram Prakriteh Param Alaksham Sarvabhutanam Antarbahirishwaram Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namah Pankajanabhaya Namah Pankajamaline Namah Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangre. Kunti Devi's stuti is so very scintillating, constantly keeps within our own minds in terms reflecting on her supreme bhakti. Even in the distress, in a state of distress, we see how the stress that Kunti always placed was on remembrance of Krishna. And when we first took up Kunti Stuti, we wondered, how come Kunti is in such an exalted state? And when we now see the prelude to the Kunti Stuti, this is possibly, we can call it Kunti Stuti Part 1. What we relished earlier at the very beginning of Bhagavatam is actually Kunti Stuti Part 2. So Kunti Stuti Part 1, which is a prelude to Kunti Stuti, actually also shows us why she is in such an exalted position and how she is able to constantly remember and contemplate on Krishna with love. Now, we all are used to operating in only two zones in our life and living. Either we are in the panic zone or we are in the comfort zone. These are the two zones where we operate. Now, to do bhakti to Krishna, both the zones are a no-no. If we are in the comfort zone, there is no bhakti to Krishna. Everything is taken for granted. Krishna, bye-bye. When we are in the panic zone, we are in such a panic that we forget to acknowledge His presence even then. So therefore, we need to find a midway between these zones. This is the stretch zone where it is important for us to take that one step, a leap of faith. And this is where we can cultivate bhakti to Krishna. This is what Kunti teaches us. Kunti teaches us how, in spite, amidst all the adversities, if we remember, there was a scintillating verse in the Kunti Stuti. Vishan Mahagne Purushada Darshanada Asat Sabhaya Vanavasa Krichrataha Mride Mride Aneka Maharatastrataha Drauni Astratas Chasma Hare Abhirakshitaha. Kunti talks about how Krishna repeatedly protected the Pandavas, her sons. And in spite of all the distress, in spite of all the agony, in spite of all the challenges that she faced, Kunti recognizes Krishna's seen and unseen hand. And we all know the scary prayers of Kunti. It is scarily courageous, but she sets a gold standard for praying to Krishna. She says, Vipadassantu thasaswat. She says, hey Krishna, keep giving me vipada, tatra tatra jagat guru. She says, continue to keep giving me vipada, because it is the adversity which becomes an impetus for me to stay connected with you. So therefore we see how Kunti teaches us through Kunti Stuti how to stay connected with Krishna even amidst adversities. She recognizes that the shelter of Krishna is more important than the freedom from adversities. Therefore she does not ask, hey Krishna, give me freedom from all distress, give me freedom from all adversities. She says, give me your shelter. Let the adversities be there. Let them keep coming. This prayer is such a supreme example of the highest bhakti that one can demonstrate to Krishna. Now Kunti looks at Akrura and says, Bhratreyo Bhagavan Krishnaha Sharanyo Bhaktavatsalaha Paitr Swasheran Smaratihi Ramaschambureh Shanaha. There are two ways to understand this. Smarati means remembrance. One way to understand, looking at Akrura, Kunti is asking, hey Akrura, she says, Bhratreyo Bhagavan Krishna. Look at the way Kunti constructs her sentences. On the one hand, she says, Bhratreya. Bhratreya means brother's son. She does not say, Bhratreya Krishna. She says, Bhratreya Bhagavan Krishna. Therefore, she never forgets who Krishna is. And here, to Akrura, we can look at it two ways. One, she's asking, does Krishna still remember me and my sons? Or it can be also, because Smarati can also be an affirmative word. And knowing Kunti, she actually tells Akrura that I know that Krishna remembers me and my sons. In spite what we are going through. Paitr Shvashairan Smarati Ramaha Chamburekshanaha. And so does the lotus-eyed Balarama. And that Bhaktavatsala Krishna, I know he remembers me. It is a state of affirmation that she exchanges with Akrura. Now, what is very important lesson here for us to learn from Kunti is this affirmation that Krishna remembers me. The question that we always have, does he remember me? The problem is we don't remember him, but Krishna always remembers us more than we can ever remember him. So therefore, to the question, is Krishna with me or not with me? If he is always remembering me, he has to be with me. This affirmation also assures that Krishna is always with me. And therefore, in my life, if I were to call my life as my life's story, we all want our life story to be part of history because we want to accomplish something. But we don't realize that whether it is part of history or not, it must definitely be part of his story, Krishna's story. What is our life story? Our life story revolves around what we do and what is done to us. In our life, we are at the very center, and our life story is all about what we do and what is done to us. Now, Kunti teaches us a very important lesson. Whatever we do and whatever happens to us, all of this is part of Krishna's glorious plan. Krishna, who is my benefactor, who only wants my welfare, everything that I do, everything that happens to me, are all part of his glorious plan. It is part of his story. So therefore, my story, my life story is integrated with his story. Now incidentally, in the case of Kunti, Krishna also happens to be her brother's son. So therefore, his story and her story are linked anyway. But then Krishna is everybody's relative. We all think Kunti is so special because Krishna is related to us. Who says Krishna is not related to us? He is our closest relation. Whatever way we want to look at that relationship, he fulfills that relationship. So therefore, Kunti Devi teaches here that my life story is integrated, is part of Krishna's story, which is his story. And what does that remembrance, always remembering this fundamental fact, helps us as two things, as our guiding light. This will guide us to always make the right choices. It will also be a guarding light. It will protect us from reacting to situations as they unfold. And Kunti, therefore, here, in a very gentle way, with Akrura, looks at him and says, hey Akrura, I am sure Krishna, if he has sent you here, the very fact that Krishna has sent Akrura to Hastinapura is only for this reason. He remembers Kunti. He is constantly thinking about Kunti. He is constantly thinking about Pandavas. In a way, this is also an expression of her gratitude to Akrura. Sapatnamadhe shochantim vikranam harinim iva. Hey Akrura, I am suffering now in the midst of enemies, like a harini, like a deer in the midst of wolves. All these Kauravas are like wolves. They are constantly attacking us, trying to eliminate my sons. Vikranam harini niva santvaishyati mam vakyehi pitrihinam schabalakan. Santvaishyati. Will Krishna console me and my sons, hey Akrura? Will he come and comfort us? Of course, once again, there are two ways to look at it. Will he comfort us? And the affirmation here is, he is already comforting us. One thing is for sure, as Kunti repeatedly demonstrates and proves, Krishna comforts the disturbed. There is no doubt about it. And he also disturbs the comforted. Both are true. He comforts those who are disturbed, and he has to disturb those who are in comfort zones. He has to challenge and transform them so that they do not lose track of their own life journeys. So Kunti here, by saying, hey Akrura, will Krishna comfort us? He is already comforting us. Kunti also is telling herself and telling all of us how we must get used to it. We must learn to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. We must learn to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. Whether we like it or not, we cannot wish away distress in our lives. Uncomfort, distress is the very design of this world. And in the process of wishing away discomfort, we are only setting ourselves for frustration, disappointment. And therefore, we have to learn, as Kunti teaches us, to feel comfortable with being uncomfortable, feeling uncomfortable. Therefore, here she says, Sapatna madhye shochantim vikranam harinim niva santvaishyati mam vakyehi pitrihinam scha balakan. My balaka, the Pandavas are without their father now. And Krishna, the Sharanagata Vatsala, is the only recourse. He is the only refuge. In many ways, Pandavas are very blessed. Not because Krishna was dear to them. It is because they were blessed with Kunti as their mother. It is Kunti's prayers. It is Kunti's constant prayers that became a shield for Pandavas. Without Kunti, there are no Pandavas. So therefore, what is important to recognize is the victory of the Pandavas in many ways obviously is Krishna's victory, but Kunti Devi is responsible for assuring this victory to the Pandavas because of her constant prayers to Krishna, because of her Krishna Bhakti. Kunti Devi also knows, and this comfort that she is talking of to Akrura, already several atrocities have been committed on Pandavas. By now, Pandavas should have been eliminated. Duryodhana, along with Shakuni and Dushasana and the other Kauravas, constantly was scheming every day to eliminate them, one day or the other. But every day, the Pandavas escaped death. And Kunti knows that Krishna protects her sons. And she also knows Krishna's protection comes in many ways. We all want Krishna to protect us in our way, not really recognizing that he has his own ways of protection. And we see here how he protected Pandavas. There are times when he personally protected the Pandavas. There are times when he sent his representative in the form of Vidura when it comes to Lakshagraha. There are times when he becomes their strength. The strength of Bhima is nothing but a spark, a manifestation of Krishna's strength. He also protected the Pandavas by enabling them to make the right choices all the time. He also protected the Pandavas through his omnipresence, the time when he protected Draupadi, even when he was not physically present. So Kunti Devi knows that Krishna's protection is assured. How he protects is his choice. And therefore, she feels comforted. Looking at Akrura, Kunti is comforted that the message is gone already to Krishna. And then, after having said that, Kunti Devi is not the type. She is not like us who go on complaining on our own poor situation. We all like to enjoy victimhood. But Kunti Devi never gets into that situation. She is always, as we see in the Kunti Stuti, she is empowered when there is an adversity. Why? Because she knows Krishna is there with her. Therefore, she continues. She says, Krishna Krishna Mahayogin Vishvatma Vishvabhavana Prapannam Pahi Govinda Shishubhis Savatidatam. She says, Avasidatam Cha Avasidata. Avasidata means sinking down in distress. Hey Krishna, hey Govinda, I have heard what all you have done in Vraja, what all you have done in order to protect the Gopas and the Gopikas. My sons Pandavas also need a similar protection. We are all sinking in the abyss of destruction. And therefore, please come and please save us. Now here, again, Kunti's prayers is, we need to learn how to also pray to Krishna. Sometimes we wonder, what is the right kind of prayers to Krishna? Should we ask Krishna, hey Krishna, move away all the causes of all the sufferings, causes of all the distress, remove them. This is one way of prayers, which is what we normally do. We pray to Krishna and ask him, remove all the causes of distress away. Now, the downside of such a prayer is, even after praying to Krishna repeatedly, we seem to be encountering obstacles, encountering distress. We still see there are causes which create distress in our lives. Therefore, then our own faith starts to get weakened. We start questioning Krishna, are you really doing your job? I am praying every day. You seem to be listening, but you not seem to be acting. But Kunti Devi teaches us a different way here. She says, we need to pray to Krishna not to move the cause of the distress, but pray to Krishna to make the distress a cause for us to move close to Krishna. Every distress has to become a cause so that we can inch closer to Krishna. And therefore, when we pray thus, distresses can come, obstacles can come on our way. Every obstacle, every distress actually becomes a cause for us to get closer and closer to Krishna. This is what Kunti Devi teaches us here, seeking out Govinda's support. Now, also, when we start praying to Krishna, we have this question. He is far away. How do I bridge the gap between me and Krishna? A prayer is a thought of Krishna, and this thought alone bridges that gap. Therefore, we can conclude safely, Krishna is just one thought away from us. If somebody were to ask us the question, how far away is Krishna from us? Kunti Devi's answer is very simple. He is just one thought away. A one thought of Krishna bridges the entire gap that we have always experienced, not in this life, for several lifetimes put together. Therefore, one thought of Krishna is enough to bridge that gap. And she goes on to say, looking at Akrura, Nanyattava padambhojat pashyami sharanam nrinam. Hey Akrura, I see no shelter. I don't see any other shelter other than the lotus feet of Krishna. Nanyattava padambhojat pashyami sharanam nrinam bhipyatam mrityu samsarat. For people who are fearful of death and rebirth, Kunti Devi is saying this. He is saying, for people like us who are fearful of death and rebirth, if Kunti Devi can admit this, there is nothing wrong in us admitting our own weakness. And therefore she says, for people who are fearful of death and rebirth, bhibhyatam mrityu samsarat, ishwarasya apavargitat. For Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and his feet alone are the means of liberation. No. People, when we are in the mode of tamas, then when we think of death, then we get into a panic. We are overwhelmed. We are deeply disturbed. We become paranoid. This is what happens to people who are tamasic. Death greatly disturbs and even destroys the lives of tamasic people. Those who are rajasic in nature, thinking of death, they immediately decide, life is too short, we have to enjoy every day. This is what rajasic people conclude, and then they go deep into enjoying the fleeting pleasures of samsara. In the case of sattvic people, the same death triggers them to ask the deep, profound question, what really matters in life? And those who are beyond even sattva, those who are shuddha sattvic, they see death as a gateway to Vaikuntha. Now, Kunti Devi therefore shows us how to actually look at death, and therefore she is not deeply disturbed. When she says for people fearful of death and rebirth, she is essentially talking about people at large. Because why? The first statement that she made very clearly shows how she sees death as a gateway to the lotus feet of Krishna. Nanyattava padambhojat pashyami sharanam rinam. I see no other shelter other than Krishna. Krishna, your liberating feet, your liberating lotus feet. In a spiritual journey, Krishna's lotus feet is the shelter, and this shelter is the starter, sustainer and summit. All the three. Because to start the spiritual journey, we need to take shelter of his lotus feet. To sustain the journey also we need the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, because the forces of this world are so very formidable, they keep pulling us away from where the right direction that we need to take. So therefore, his lotus feet are also the sustainers. And then eventually, why do we journey on this path? To reach the summit, which again are the lotus feet of Krishna. So therefore, Kunti Devi recognizes this and says, therefore your feet alone are the means to the liberation. And Kunti Devi also knows that when she says, I am only seeking your lotus feet, she is also sending a very important message. Whatever I am seeking in this life, eventually I am only seeking Krishna. That's a very broad statement to make. We may wonder, how is it possible? Yes, there are people who are on the spiritual path who are seeking Krishna. So therefore, whatever I am seeking, I am actually seeking Krishna. But then even those who are seeking material pleasures, indirectly are only seeking that which only Krishna can give him. So Kunti Devi is saying, therefore when one recognizes this fact, ultimately even the material rewards are only bestowed by him. Why take the route where we are seeking, we are thirsting for experiencing the drops of the ocean, when the ocean is waiting for us? The ocean is waiting to be given completely to us. And therefore, she looks at Akrura and says, and then she continues her prayers. This is the prelude to the Kunti Stuti. Namah Krishnaya Shuddhaya Brahmane Paramatmane Yogeshwaraya Yogaya Tvamaham Sharanam Gata. In many ways, this forms the transition between this particular prayer and where she started off in the Kunti Stuti. Because here she says, she is addressing Krishna using several beautiful namas here. Namah Krishnaya Shuddhaya. Hey Parabrahmane, you are Shuddhaya, you are Paramatmane, you are Yogeshwaraya, you are Yogaya. And she says, Tvamaham Sharanam Gata. I have come to you taking your shelter. You are Shuddhaya, you are the pure, and you alone can purify me. You are Paramatma, you are my Antaratma, Antaryami. You are with me all the time, constantly calling me. Constantly we are getting calls from Krishna. He is trying to call us, but we keep the line engaged. Because we are busy attending to other calls. The ringtones in this world are so very fascinating. We are always fascinated by, therefore Krishna's call never gets connected. But he is there as Antaryami trying to call us all the time. We fail to know that there is a hotline between us and Krishna. Anytime we can call. And it's free. He is Paramatmane. Kunti Devi recognizes that. And she says, Yogeshwaraya. Yogeshwara, what is Yogeshwara? Yoga, Ishwara. The Lord of mystic powers. So he is omnipotent. He is all powerful. And therefore, recognizing that he is Yogeshwara also gives us a very important message. Because we are always worried about when we want to do anything, we see in this world, there are things that are possible, there are things that are impossible. Now, knowing Krishna as Yogeshwara makes us understand that when we do what is possible to us, Krishna will do what is impossible to us. Because to him nothing is impossible. And there is a prerequisite for Krishna to do the impossible. The only prerequisite is we do what is possible. Because he has given us certain endowments. He has given us an able body. He has given us an able mind. He has given us the intellect. And he has given us the Shastras. So therefore, there are things which are definitely in the scope of possibility for us. And if we do those little things, very little things, like saying, Jai Sri Krishna, Krishna is immensely pleased. And he starts doing what we think is impossible. Therefore, he is Yogeshwara. He is Yogaya, the source of all knowledge. What Kunti Devi here is praying is, hey Krishna, don't prepare the road for me. Don't prepare the road for me. The path of my life and living, don't prepare the road. I will take the road, I will chart my course. Prepare me for the road. Prepare me for the travel. Because there is no point in asking him to prepare the road, because the road, whatever we take in the life and living, it's going to have challenge, it's going to have obstacles, it's going to have things that are not expected. And therefore, instead of asking Krishna to prepare the road, Kunti is basically saying, hey Krishna, why? Because Shuddha, you are Shuddha, purify me. He is not saying, just purify the world, purify everybody else so that I can become pure. The world will never be pure. Because by design, impurities are part of this world. Whether we like it or not, we are going to be bombarded by stimuli that are going to be impure in nature. Whether I like it or not. I cannot blame the world. Now, I can pray to Krishna to make me pure, so that I can not survive, I can thrive amidst impurity. I can be in a place filled with impurity all over. I can be in a place where there are temptations all around me, but Krishna wills, he can make me Shuddha, pure. He is Shuddha, Paramatmane. Now, give me that courage, give me that constant guidance. As I embark on this journey, I know the route ahead. There are going to be several unknowns. It's not going to be possible for me to determine the right course. But keep guiding me. Keep being my navigator all the time. That is the role of the Paramatma. He's been traveling with us for every life, all the lifetimes before, only for this purpose, to give navigation. Now, the problem that we have is, we don't listen to his navigation guidelines, and therefore we keep missing the routes. We keep taking the wrong exits. Therefore, she is addressing Krishna, hey Paramatmane, keep guiding me, so that I can be fearless in the road that I take. You are the Yogeshwara. I will do what is possible. You remove what is impossible. You are Yoga, the source of all knowledge. So thus we see Kunti sets a great example through this very short prayer. This is a very short prayer, unlike the Kunti Stuti, which is a very long prayer. This becomes a prelude, and this also gives a reflection on the state of mind of Kunti. How Kunti is preparing herself for the series of adversities that are going to strike. Kunti's life is defined by only one word, calamity. We can say she is possibly the only one who graduated from the University of Adversity and with flying colors. And she's a supreme example as to how to deal with all kinds of calamity. And this prelude to Kunti Stuti gives us also a taste into what Kunti, how she was preparing herself for the road ahead. Akrura then is shaken by what has been happening around. He goes to Dhritarashtra and gives him a piece of his mind. And Dhritarashtra, as is his normal way, he takes everything. He always takes in every advice and says, this is such a great advice. Vidura gives him advice, Bhishma gives him advice, Akrura goes and gives him advice. Dhritarashtra says, whatever you say is truth, but I can only do what Duryodhana asks me to do. This is the sorry state of Dhritarashtra. So therefore, Akrura knows that there is nothing good that can happen as long as Duryodhana is in the driving seat. And therefore, with all the information that he has collected from Vidura and Kunti, and after having spent few months surveying, talking to people around, now Akrura goes back to Mathura to narrate everything that has happened to Krishna. And then Krishna, as Mathura was flourishing, Krishna gets all the news. So Krishna also knows what is going on in Hastinapura. Now, as this is going on, we also have to see what happened to the wives of Kamsa. After Kamsa got killed, Asti and Prapti, the two wives of Kamsa, then they flee Mathura and then they go to Magadha, their father's place. And who is the father? Who is the father-in-law of Kamsa? Jarasandha. Now, Jarasandha, ever since Kamsavada happened, started scheming as to how to destroy Mathura, how to kill Krishna and Balarama. And Jarasandha attacks Mathura. And when he attacks Mathura with full force, Krishna and Balarama also make a counter attack. And in the ensuing battle, Jarasandha is badly beaten and Balarama ties him completely, but then Krishna decides to let him go. We may wonder why Jarasandha was not killed by Krishna. The one who killed Kamsa, one who killed all the Rakshasas and the Rakshasis, why did he spare Jarasandha? Many times we ask this question. Jarasandha attacked Mathura not once. After this, he attacked Mathura 17 times. Totally 17 times he attacked. 18th time is when. So 17 times he attacks. Every time Krishna lets go of not really taking action against Jarasandha. He only protects protects Mathura. We may wonder why Krishna did this. It was being prophesied that amongst the four of them, there were four: Bhima, Jarasandha, Duryodhana, Kichaka. The one who first happens to kill the other will end up killing all of them. So therefore, Krishna knew that it is Bhima's play. It is Bhima who had to kill Jarasandha, because only then he can eventually kill Duryodhana and also Kichaka. If Krishna would have killed Jarasandha, then Krishna would have been compelled to participate in the Mahabharata war to fight against Duryodhana. So Jarasandha's life was spared not once, not twice, 17 times. Jarasandha, as he was attacking, now also while this attack of Jarasandha was also going on, there was a Yavana king called Kala Yavana who also attacked Mathura at the same time. So suddenly Mathura faced two attacks from two armies, and Kala Yavana came with an army of 30 million soldiers. Kala Yavana wanted to prove that he was the foremost warrior on the planet, and he was challenging Krishna. He challenged everyone, defeated everybody, and Narada, being Narada, eventually pointed to Mathura and asked Kala Yavana, your nemesis is in Mathura, please go and challenge Krishna. So therefore, Kala Yavana also comes knocking on the doors of Mathura. So on one hand, Jarasandha is attacking Mathura. On the other hand, Kala Yavana laid siege to Mathura with an army of 30 million. Now Krishna finally decided what to do. He decided that protecting the Yadavas, protecting his people is foremost instead of engaging in a battle. Therefore, what he did, he discussed with Balarama and he decided to move his base from Mathura to another city, a city which is more safer, and Krishna decided to build a new city. Iti sammantriya bhagavan durgam dwadasha yojanam antas samudre nagaram krishnadbhutam achikarat. Therefore, he went all the way to Samudra and he created a wonder of wonders, possibly the foremost of ancient cities called Dwarka. So Krishna built the glorious city of Dwarka, 12 yojanas in circumference. He reclaimed, possibly the first reclaiming project ever done in the history of humankind. Possibly here they found out what was done there, and we see a lot of dredging and reclaiming of land happening here. Much before Palm Island happened, Dwarka happened. So therefore there, Dwarka, he says, Krishnadbhutam achikarat, adbhuta, ati adbhuta. Then Sukha beautifully narrates the glory of the Dwarka Puri. Drishyate yatra hi tvashtram vijnanam shilpanaipunam ratya chatvara vitibhihi yata vastu vinirmitam. The construction of the city, see, all kinds of scientific knowledge was used. Dwarka was not just built in a very primitive way. It is one of those leading cities where architectural skills of Vishwakarma was demonstrated. Wide avenues, big commercial roads, courtyards, Suradruma Latodhyana Vichitropavananvitaha Hemashringer Divispringbihi Spatikatala Gopuraihi. Beautiful gardens and beautiful towers, and all the towers on the top was decorated with gold, decorated with crystals, decorated with gems. Dwaraka, created by Vishwakarma, built by Vishwakarma with the guidance of Krishna, became such a beautiful, wondrous city. And Krishna therefore arranged for Dwaraka to be built. And Indra, all the devatas were awestruck looking at Dwaraka. It seems was even more beautiful than Indrapattana. And what Indra did, he was taken aback and he decided that Dwaraka deserves the best assembly hall. Indra brought his own assembly hall called Sudharma and he gifted it to Krishna. Not only that, he gifted the Parijata tree from Swarga to Krishna. And then Varuna gifted his horses, which are as swift as the mind, to Krishna. Kubera gifted all his treasury to Dwaraka. Dwaraka became the richest city on the planet. And Krishna decided to transport all the Mathuravasis, all the Yadavas. Using his Yogamaya, Krishna magically transported all the Mathuravasis from Mathura to Dwaraka so that they are well protected. Their protection is taken care of. Then, in the meantime, Balarama was still in Mathura because he was still defending Mathura against the armies of Jarasandha on one side and Kalayavana on the other side. And what did Krishna do? After taking care of his people, after everything was settled in Dwaraka, Krishna goes back to Mathura. And then what does he do? He says, Balarama, you just wait. And then he exits Mathura with no weapons. Just as a normal, without any weapons, he just exits wearing a garland of lotuses, nicely decorated, as though not going for a war, as though going for a party, nicely decorates. Krishna, obviously Alankara Priya, wearing a garland of lotuses, he walks out of Mathura. And Kalayavana is waiting there. He was waiting for Krishna to attack him, counter-attack him. Then he sees Krishna walking away. Kalayavana for a moment was not able to believe this. Is this Krishna who is walking away? I was expecting some kind of a counter-attack coming from Mathura, but nothing seems to be happening. And then Kalayavana is a very proud warrior. He doesn't give up. So therefore, he starts calling out Krishna. The more Kalayavana calls out Krishna, the faster Krishna starts running. He was first walking, now he starts running. So Kalayavana starts to chase him. Kalayavana chases, Krishna runs. Now this is why Krishna also is called Ranchod, the one who left the battlefield and ran. Krishna knows that victory does not come just by courageously be fighting every battle. It comes by choosing which battles to fight. Krishna knows, and therefore what Krishna does? He keeps running, and now Kalayavana is frustrated. Now earlier he was only calling out, now he starts insulting Krishna. And Krishna enjoys every insult hurled at him is like a flower being thrown at him. Krishna is accepting all the insults and he keeps running. Kalayavana is chasing him and Krishna runs far away from Mathura, gets into the forest and then gets to a mountain and then he enters a cave. And then Kalayavana also follows. And then Krishna goes inside the cave and he hides. And there is a man there who is sleeping there, covered with a cloth. And Kalayavana goes and he mistakes him to be Krishna. And he says, you come here and you're hiding here. And then he tries to wake him up. And when the man wakes up, just casting his glance, Kalayavana completely gets burned. The body of Kalayavana bursts into flames. Just the sheer glance of that man was enough to bring an end to Kalayavana. Now Parikshit immediately asks Shuka, who is this man who with his glance is able to kill Kalayavana? Shuka then narrates, this person is none other than Muchukunda. Muchukunda, who was the son of the Ikshvaku king Mandhata. Mandhata's son Muchukunda was once upon a time a glorious king who used to rule the entire Bharatavarsha. He was one of those famous Ikshvaku kings and he was so powerful, so valorous that all the devatas came to him for help. When Indra was attacked by Asuras, Indra came running to Muchukunda and asked for help. And he became the general of the army of Indra. And he fought on behalf of Indra many wars and helped Indra. Later on, Kartikeya Skanda was nominated as the army general for the Devatas. Then Muchukunda was relieved from the job. Now all the Devatas, including Indra, were very pleased with Muchukunda, because Muchukunda for several years sacrificed everything for protecting Indra and the Devatas. He sacrificed his family life. He sacrificed everything in his kingdom. He was only dedicated to fighting the wars against the Asuras on behalf of Indra. Indra was so very pleased with Muchukunda, therefore he was ready to give him a benediction. Please choose. Vichitra Ishvara Sankalpa. Muchukunda chose sound sleep. We may wonder what kind of a boon this one is seeking. You should not be asking this question. We may also get carried away and ask the same boon many times. So Muchukunda ended up asking, give me a long sound sleep, but not ordinary sleep, yoga nidra. And therefore, it was a sleep not wasted. In that process, he was also accumulating lot of tapobala. And it is this tapobala which resulted in burning the body of Kalayavana when he cast his first glance of opening his eyes. And Muchukunda, therefore, after this incident, he himself did not anticipate what this happening, this Kalayavana coming, and he opening his eyes and then burning him to ashes. And immediately there, after this, he was in a state of awe, because then Krishna comes out of hiding, not just as Krishna, but as Mahavishnu. And therefore, Krishna decides to reveal his form to Muchukunda. And Muchukunda looks at what has come in front of him. Tamalokya ganashyavam pita kausheya vasasam srivatsavakshasam bhrajat kaustebyam virajitam chatubhujam rochamanam charu prasannavadanam spuran makarakundalam prekshaniyam nilokasya sanuragas vitekshanam avipya vasanam mattaha rigendrodara vikramam. For a moment, he did not understand who is in front of him. Exactly like what happened in the morning to Arjuna. Apyahi me ko bhavan ugra rupa. There it was ugra rupa. Here saumya rupa here. In both the cases, in the case of Arjuna, he looked at Krishna and says, who are you, Krishna? In the case of Muchukunda, seeing a saumya rupa also. We should not be asking this question, why did he do it? Just imagine if Krishna reveals himself here in his saumya rupa, all of us would also ask the same question, who are you? Muchukunda therefore asked the right question, because he did not understand. He knew this is something spectacular. He knew this is something supernatural. He knew this is not an ordinary person, but still he had to ask that question. And when he asked that question, Krishna smiled. Krishna looked at Muchukunda and said, who are you? And Muchukunda introduced himself. And as the son of Mandhata, what happened to him, how he happened to be here. And Muchukunda also demonstrates humility, saying it was not his tapobala that destroyed Kalayavana. He says, hey Krishna, when I opened my eyes, it looked like it is his own karma which is the result of him getting burnt. And then Muchukunda requests Krishna to reveal who he is, and then Krishna reveals to him that who he is, and Krishna gives a brief account on his avatara rahasya, and he says, you are seeing me as I am. Muchukunda is in a state of, he's thrilled, he's ecstatic, he prays, and then Krishna asks him, please choose a boon, any boon, because I am so very pleased, because you were instrumental in the slaying of Kalayavana. Muchukunda says, I need nothing, I need no boon. And he looks at Krishna, knowing who Krishna is, he then goes to pray. Chiram iha vrijinartaha tapyamano nupatihi. For so long I have been pained by troubles in this world. I have been burning with grief, hey Krishna. Now I know I am so very blessed, because you have come walking all the way to me. Avitrishya sadamrittaha alabdaha shanti kathanchit. My 6 enemies, I realized, will never be satisfied. Who are his 6 enemies? Mind and the 5 senses. Muchukunda says, I have been struggling with them and I now know for sure I can find no peace because these 6 enemies of mine who have been traveling with me all the time will never be satiated. Sharanada samupetaha tvat padambajam paratman. Therefore, I can find you alone, abhayam mritam ashokam pahimapannam ishaha. You alone amidst all the dangers. It is my good fortune that your lotus feet came approaching me. He did not call out to Krishna. Sometimes it so happens that people who don't call out to Krishna, Krishna makes himself accessible to them. This is exactly what has happened to Muchukunda. Immediately we ask, why Muchukunda has happened, why Krishna goes to Muchukunda, it doesn't come to us. But Muchukunda is a blessed soul. He's a great bhakta. He's been doing as a king of Ikshvakus. He has been conducting several yagas, several yajnas. He's a great bhakta. He has been praying to Narayana, and therefore it is time for him to be blessed, the time for him to be rewarded. So therefore, Krishna blesses him and he says, now that you have not asked for any boon, let me give you a boon. Because you being a Kshatriya, engaged in various battles, you still have some more karma to be exhausted. Therefore, you will take another birth as a Brahmana, and then in that very birth, you will attain mukti. So Krishna grants him mukti, not in this janma, but assures him in the next janma. Muchukunda is so very pleased, and Krishna returns to Mathura, which was still under siege. Balarama was confronting the 30 million army of Kalayavana, and Jarasandha on the other hand. Once again they come back, and both Krishna and Balarama, they then thwart the enemy forces, and then they protect Mathura. Then Krishna then sets off to Dwarka. He goes to Dwarka and he starts waiting. Waiting for what? What is Krishna waiting for? He is waiting for the call to come. No, we are all also waiting for a call, but Krishna is waiting for only one call. And he has been waiting for this call for a long time. No, we all know that Sri and Bhagavan are always united. Nityaivaisha Jaganmata Vishnoho Sri Ranapayini Yata Sarvagato Vishnuhu Tateveyam Dvijottama. As Parashara declares, Bhagavan and Sri are ever united, inseparable. And therefore, in Krishnavatara, Krishna had to waiting for the call. Now here, Ramavatara and Krishnavatara, there are some interesting parallels. In both the cases, they go searching for Sri. But only difference is, in the one case, in Ramavatara, Bhagavan is very obedient. In search of Sri, he is very patient, patiently listens to Vishwamitra. He goes all the way to Mithila. He is waiting for Vishwamitra to command him so that he can go, and in the process of stringing there, that his impatience comes out knowingly or unknowingly, ends up breaking it. But there, his obedience was there, and he won the hand of Sita Mata. In the case of Krishnavatara, there is no obedience here. Krishna is only used to one thing. All along until now, he is only trained in stealing. He has been stealing butter, he has been stealing the hearts of Gopikas. He only knows one thing, to steal. Therefore, he can only steal Sri again. Now, therefore, he is also waiting for that call. And that call is yet to come. Krishna is waiting. On the other hand, the preparation for the call is happening somewhere else. Tatha vidananda mahapayode taranga vrittaya bhajatovataran asesha rupeshu anurupa rupa devi jagannetuhu anupratagne. This is not from Bhagavatam, this is from Yadavabhyudayam. This is where Vedanta Desika talks about the avatara of Sri during Krishna avatara. Tathavida Ananda Mahopadhe refers to Bhagavan. He is like an ocean of bliss, and he keeps taking avatars. The waves are like his avatars, and when he takes the avatars, Asesha Rupeshu Anurupa Rupa. Every time he takes the avatara, Sri Mahalakshmi also takes an avatara, and she accompanies him. Devi Jagannetu Anuprajagye. She follows Bhagavan, and as per his will, she also carries out the mission of the avatara. Satasya nityodita divyadhamnaha patyuh priya bhanumatah prabhevaha adhyasitur dwaravatim adurat vyaktim shubham prapa vidarbhadeshe. Bhagavan was in Dwaraka, far away from Dwaraka, in Vidarbha Desha. The one whose abode is the supreme Vaikuntha, who is like the radiance of the sun, just like how the radiance of the sun is inseparable from the sun, who is Shri, who is inseparable from Bhagavan, she decides to descend in Vidarbha Desha, far away from Dwaraka. Dayeva nityam dayita tridhamnaha sarveshu bhaveshu samana bhava paravaranam janani prajanam asit vidarbhad atipater apatyam. She is like the daya, the very daya of Bhagavan. If Bhagavan is compassionate, it's only because of Shri. She is the very manifestation of daya, and it is because of her that he is also compassionate, and therefore she decides to descend in Vidarbha Desha. As what? Amanyatainam tanayam saraja rukmascha mohat anujamajanyam yameka patnim anaghasya pumsaha prajasrajam mataram amananti. She is born as the daughter of Bhishmaka and the sister of 5 brothers: Rukmi, Rukmarata, Rukmabahu, Rukmakesha, Rukmanetra. Now, all the 5 brothers and her father, it seems, they thought she was an ordinary person, and he thought Bhishmaka thought Rukmini was his daughter like every other daughter a father has, without knowing who she actually was. But including the brothers, therefore they all decided that they will decide what is right for her without realizing why she has descended and taken the avatara. Nisheva chandrena ganapyapaye naisargiki buddhirvashrutena. Rukmini was shining like the night embraced by a moon without the clouds. Naisargiki buddhirvashrutena. She was shining like intelligence illumined by scriptures. Phalena sa nitriva pramada. She was shining like faultless conduct bearing the fruit of discipline. Yukta bhabav nutana yavvanena. She was endowed with fresh youth, beauty. She radiated brilliance. Rukmini Devi was preparing herself. It seems she immersed herself in all the Shastras. She immersed herself and acquired all the Shastra Jnana. We may ask, why did she do all that? Waiting for Bhagavan, waiting for Krishna, why did she do? She needed all the Shastra. She completed all the studies for one reason: to write a love letter. I am not saying all those who are studying here to do the study for writing the love letter. We will see what Rukmini's love letter is all about. So Rukmini was preparing herself to make the call. Krishna is preparing himself, waiting for the call. How does the call happen? What is the call about? What is this love letter that she writes? Possibly the first love letter written ever in the history of humankind. What can this love letter teach us? For those who are married, we can possibly once again practice how to write love letters. Those who are not married, they can also learn the art and science of writing love letters. So therefore, there is a good case for everybody not to miss next session. Let us conclude here. As Krishna is waiting in Dwaraka, Rukmini is waiting in Vidarbha, both of them waiting to make the call, waiting to make that connect. And when they make the connect, it is to bless us together, and let us keep contemplating on that blissful union that is bound to happen very soon. Until then, Sarvam Sri Krishna Arpanamastu.